theyeshiva.net.
Pesachim daf kuf aleph amud aleph. A few lines before the bottom of the page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Eini. 10 lines from the bottom. Kuf aleph amud aleph. What did the Gemara tell us now? The Gemara was teaching us that Rav holds that Kiddush doesn't have to be b'makom suda. So if you hear Kiddush in Shul, you can go home and start your meal, even though you have to make a new bracha. Hagafen, why? Because you changed your place. You went from one house to another house. You went from Shul home. But you don't have to make a new Kiddush. You could start your meal and do hamaitzi and eat, because Kiddush doesn't have to be b'makom suda. But Shmuel disagreed, and Shmuel said, not only do you have to make a new bracha on wine when you get home, you also have to make a new Kiddush. And the reason is because Shmuel holds, ein Kiddush ella b'mekayim suda. Kiddush has to be in the place of the meal. And the Rashbam gave the two reasons for that, v'karasa la Shabbos eineg, and the svara that they established the cup of wine to make Kiddush on Shabbos, the wine b'toich hasuda, the wine as part and parcel of a meal. And the Gemara explained, Rabbi Anan said that he heard from Shmuel, it's not only from the shul to the house, even in the house itself. If you make Kiddush on the attic and the roof on the second floor and you come down, you have to make Kiddush again. That's what he heard from Shmuel, because Shmuel used to make sure to come down and make Kiddush where the meal was. He wouldn't make Kiddush on the roof. And the Gemara says Rabbi Huna agrees. Rabbi Huna also holds ein Kiddush ala b'makom suda, and that's why once when he made Kiddush and it was dark and he couldn't eat there, he went in to the canopy of his son, and that's where he ate and made Kiddush. And then the Gemara said that Rabbi also holds ein Kiddush ala b'makom suda. So we have everybody Shmuel, and we have Rabbi Huna, and we have Rabbi. And the Gemara brings a story that Abaye said that when Rabbi used to make Kiddush, afterwards he would tell us, his students, before you go home, eat something. To imu midi, I want you to eat something. I want you to taste something. Why? Because perhaps when you go to your hotel or the house you're staying, the candles have already been extinguished, and therefore there is no light. And even if you decide that you're fine not eating and you're going to go to sleep, but the problem is you didn't fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush because you didn't eat here. And my Kiddush won't work for you. You're going to have to make Kiddush again. And over there, you won't make Kiddush again because you won't be able to eat. So even if you make Kiddush again over there, it's not going to work because you're not going to eat there. So therefore, just eat your meal here. So we have three sources, even though Rav disagrees, but we have Shmuel and Reb Huna and Rabbi, Abaye quoting Rabbi, who all hold ein Kiddush ella b'mekayim su'uda. Says the Gemara, Eini, it's not so. How could you tell me that Rabbi agreed with Shmuel? Abaye said something fascinating. Kol mili demar hava avid kerav. All the issues, all the matters of my master. Abaye's master was Rabbi. Rabbi was his uncle. Rabbi was his mentor. Rabbi was his Rebbe. Abaye was an orphan. And Rabbi was his uncle. And Rabbi raised him. So Rabbi both raised him as a father, and he raised him also as a Rebbe, as a teacher. So when he says the master Mar, he's talking about Rabbi. So he says, all the matters of my master, he used to follow Rav. Levar mehani tlas da'avid kishmuel. Besides 3 halachas where he followed Shmuel against Rav. Everything my teacher Rabbi followed Rav besides 3 things. What are the 3 things? Number 1, matirin mi beged lebeged. Matirin mebeged lebeged means I could take tzitzis off one garment and place it on another garment. Rav holds that it's embarrassing for the first beged that you're removing the tzitzis. You're not allowed to do that. Shmuel holds you're not just removing it. You're removing it in order to place it on another beged. Let's say I have tzitzis and one of my fringes of tzitzis becomes pasul. So I take tzitzis from another garment, I put it on. Rav says you're not allowed to do that. You have to make new ones. Shmuel holds matirin mibeged lebeged acher. You are allowed to. Why? Because he holds since you're changing it to another beged, it's not embarrassing for the mitzvah. Next machlokes, very similar. Madlikin min ner lener. Can I take a Chanukah candle that I already lit as a Chanukah candle and light with it another Chanukah candle? Rav says you're not allowed to. Why? Because it's bizui mitzvah. This candle is a mitzvah candle. Don't use it to light another candle. It's embarrassing the mitzvah. Shmuel holds, madlikin min ner l'ner. Rav would say, use a match, use a shamash. You could use a shamash. That's fine, but don't use the Hanukkah candle itself to light the other candle. Shmuel says, no, madlikin min ner l'ner. Because you're using it, you're not stam using it to light your stove. You're not using it to light your pipe. You're using it in order to light another Hanukkah candle, so it's fine.
And the beggar is from a kosher pair of...
Yeah. So
you're making it not kosher.
Right. Yeah.
So this is only for the same mitzvah? Or if you take it and you want to light the candles for Shabbos, that he would not hold it?
What would Rav hold? What would Shmuel hold about using Hanukkah candles for Shabbos candles?
Something different. Not for the same mitzvah.
It's an interesting question. I think it's fine. I have to look it up, but I think, he would hold it's fine. I think. I have to look. Next, V'halacha k'Reb Shimon b'grira. The next thing he followed Shmuel was, Shmuel used to say the halacha is like Reb Shimon when it comes to grira, is dragging. The Tanya, we had a brayso. Reb Shimon says, Goyra the mita kisi v'safsel b'Shabbos. A person may drag a bed, or a chair, or a bench on Shabbos, on the ground, as long as you don't intentionally try to make a furrow, a hole in the ground. What is the idea? The Tanoim have a machloikus. Are you allowed to do something on Shabbos, which as a result of that, something will happen, which is a malacha? Not intentionally, but as a result of what you're doing, you're doing is permissible, but as a result, something may happen unintentionally, which is a malach. An example, you're in a bungalow colony, say in the country, right? And you're going to eat in somebody else's house, and there's not enough, they need a bench. You have a bench in your house, so you take your bench outside and you schlep your bench from your house to the other house on the ground, on the earth. It may make a furrow, which is a malacha of plowing, charisha, but that's not my intention. It also may not happen, but if we're schlepping a heavy bench on the ground, it may make a furrow in the ground. It may not, but it may yes. If it does make it, and I would have done that intentionally, it's called plowing. Am I allowed to do it? This is called davar she'enoi miskaven. He's doing something. It may result in a malacha, but that's not his purpose. That's not his intention. So this is the example of dragging a bed on the ground without the intention to create a furrow, which would be a malacha of plowing if it's outside, or malacha of binyan, of construction, of building, if it's in a home. Reb Shimon holds davar she'ena miskaven is mutter. You're just allowed to. It's fine. Reb Yehuda disagrees. Reb Yehuda holds that it's asur. So Reb Shimon holds that even if there's a furrow, it's fine as long as this was not your intention. And I should also add, as long as it's not inevitable, which is called psik reisha, meaning if it's inevitable to happen, then you can't call it a davar she'ena miskaven because it was part of action 1 is action 2. But if it's not inevitable, so then even if it happens, Reb Shimon says it's fine and it's mutter. Shmuel held the halacha was like Reb Shimon. Rav held the halacha was like Rabbi Yehuda. Davar she'ena miskaven asur. Rabbi followed Shmuel. The halacha is like Reb Shimon. Davar she'ena miskaven is mutter. What do we see from here? Abaye said, my master did everything like Rav besides 3 things. He would untie tzitzis and put another beged. He would light a Hanukkah candle from another Hanukkah candle, or he felt it's permissible, and he would drag something on Shabbos, even if it could make a furrow, because it's a davar she'ena miskaven, it's mutter. Those are the 3 things that my teacher did like Shmuel. Suddenly, Abaye is contradicting himself. He told us something new. He told us that what? That Rabbi also held like Shmuel, that ain't Kiddush, Ella. If he would hold like Rav, they wouldn't have to eat after Kiddush. They could make Kiddush and then go home and eat. It's fine. Because Kiddush doesn't have to be a Makam Suda. So Abaye is contradicting himself. He told us a whole story that Rabbi demanded they should eat after Kiddush because ain't Kiddush Ella b'Makam Suda. In other words, he agrees with Shmuel, but Abaye told us that my teacher used to do everything like Rav besides 3 things. And those 3 things don't include Kiddush. And here we have a 4th thing. Zog the Gemara, you misunderstood Abaye. Kechumre de Rav hava avid, kekula de Rav loy hava avid. Rabbi followed Rav in all of his stringencies, besides 3 things where he was lenient like Shmuel. But kekula de Rav loy hava avid. It doesn't mean that he always followed Rav when it came to leniencies. In other words, In every area where Rav was stringent and Shmuel was lenient as a principle, he always followed Rav. When Rav was stringent and Shmuel was lenient, he took Rav's position to be machmer for stringency. Besides three things, where even though Rav was stringent and Shmuel was lenient, he rejected Rav and he embraced Shmuel. The tzitzis, the candle, davar sheina miskaven, and all those three things, Rav is stringent and Shmuel was lenient, and that's the chiddush, that in these three things he embraced Shmuel. But there could be things that he did like Shmuel when Shmuel was stringent. So that's what happened there. So it's not a contradiction. Yeah, he used to follow Rav when it came to stringencies, besides three things. But in Kiddush Ala B'Makam Suda, he followed Shmuel as a stringency, not as a leniency. That's not a Chiddush. The Chiddush is that in three places, he followed Shmuel as a leniency when he always used to follow Rav when he was stringent. But in this case, he followed Shmuel because Shmuel is the stringent one. There are things where he didn't follow Rav when following Rav meant being lenient. And that's one of the examples. A practical example. The halacha is like, we accept the halacha like Shmuel in this area, and that's why davar sheina miskaven is mutter. So if your child has a splinter, and you want to take it out on Shabbos, right? You want to take it out. It's possible that you're going to prick it in the process, and there's going to be the letting of blood, which you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, but it's not inevitable. So you're allowed to take out. You're allowed to take a tweezer, whatever, and take out the splinter from the hand. I'm not talking about if it's a medical, if it's dangerous. Then of course you're allowed to. You're allowed to take it out. It could be that as a result of that you're going to do a malacha. That's fine. Your intention is not to make your child bleed. Your intention is just to take out the splinter. That's a classic example of a davar she'eina miskaven, right? You may end up doing a malacha, but that's not your intention, and it's not inevitable, so you're allowed to do it.
I didn't understand the example of schlepping the heavy bench.
Yeah, on the ground, on the lawn,
If it's inevitable, but you can't lift it. It's too heavy. You're going to make it.
If you're for sure going to make a furrow, then it's a challenge. Then it's a problem. We're talking about not for sure. Yeah, if you're for sure going to make a furrow, then it's a problem.
If it's a situation, doesn't it also have to be beneath the leg? Different?
According to some, that's another machlokes, yeah.
But that is, you don't look at that level of the sky.
Right, exactly, yeah. Right. I want you to look for a moment on the words of Rabbi in the story that Abaye told about Rabbi. What did he tell his students? He says, Ki hava mekadosh. When we were by our master, when he would make Kiddush Amalon, he would say, Ti'imu midi. I want you to taste something. Ti'imu midi. I want you to taste something. These words, Ti'imu midi, can indicate a very interesting concept, and that is that you don't have to eat a whole meal in order to fulfill the obligation of Kiddush b'Makam Suda. These two words become the source of a very important halacha. Rabbi didn't say, stay here and eat. Rabbi said, stay here to taste something. So we learn from here that Kiddush b'Makam Suda doesn't mean the whole meal has to be in the place of the Kiddush. It's enough if you eat something here, and then the main meal you eat elsewhere. That's what we learn from these two words, Te'imu midi, taste something. I don't need you to eat the whole meal. Because you might think Kiddush b'Makam Suda means you have to do Kiddush in the place of the whole meal. But from here we learn, no. You could start eating something here, as long as you started, even though much of the meal, or the main part of the meal you're going to eat in another house, you don't have to make another Kiddush. Why? Because the main thing is that you started the Su'udah in the place of the Kiddush, even though the primary part of the Su'udah was not in the place of the Kiddush. But since you started the Oineg in the place of a Karasa LaShabbos, it is fine. That's a Gevaldik Kiddush in Halacha, that even if you eat a little bit and you eat most of the Su'udah elsewhere, you don't have to make a new Kiddush. Oh, very good, very good. Another interesting thing you see in this story, another Gevaldige thing you see in this story is, look at the story again, and this is how we have to be medayik in stories. Amar Rabbi, I'm going to read. Ki havina beimar, when we were by the master, ki hava mekadosh, when he would make Kiddush, Amar lon, he would say, Te'imu midi, taste something. When did he say this? Before he made Kiddush or after he made Kiddush? Look at the story. When did he say it? Did he say it before Kiddush to taste something, or did he say it after Kiddush? How do you know it was after Kiddush? Excellent. After Kiddush, right? Ki have a mekadosh, when he made Kiddush, Amar lon te'imu midi. What do we see from here? He probably said this after he made Kiddush. This means that if you made Kiddush, even if during the Kiddush you were not planning to eat anything, but after the Kiddush you ate, you fulfilled the obligation of Kiddush. That's what we see from Rabbi. Because Rabbi didn't tell them before Kiddush, make sure you're going to eat something. He told it to them after Kiddush. That means during Kiddush, they may have thought we're going right home. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter. During Kiddush, you may have thought you're going right home. But if after Kiddush you eat something, even though you didn't have in mind to eat during Kiddush, you still fulfilled the obligation of Kiddush. Why? Because the Kiddush was b'makam Suda, even though during the Kiddush you weren't thinking about the Suda. That's what you also learn from this story. So you learn two major things from this story. Number one, you don't have to eat a whole meal. And number two, you don't even have to have kavanah by Kiddush that you're going to eat, as long as you ate after Kiddush. Now there's a third question. What do you have to eat? How much do you have to eat? And what do you have to eat? He says, Te'imu midi, taste. But he doesn't say what? Taste what? Herring?
Matches herring.
Herring? Shtickle mezainas? Ashnap? What do you have to taste? He says, Te'imu midi. Taste something. Obviously, don't eat a whole meal. Taste something doesn't mean to eat a whole meal. It means taste something. But what are you tasting? That he doesn't say clearly in the story. In other words, what did he need? What did he want for them to eat? And naturally, since it's ambiguous, so there is a machlokes about this. What else would you expect? We are Jewish. The question is, what type of food do you have to eat in order to be yotze the makam suda? Since this is quite a practical question in life, because people often make Kiddush at a simcha, you go to a simcha, you have Kiddush, or in Shul, or whatever, you visit somebody for a few minutes, maybe even with your wife and family, and then you go home, and you ate something at the Kiddush, right? How do you know if you have to make a second Kiddush when you get home to do Makam Suda? So we learned that if you didn't eat, you for sure have to make a second Kiddush, right? But the question is, if you did eat at the place of the Kiddush, do you have to make a second Kiddush? So,
If you don't have to, can I be good to everybody else?
yeah, that's fine. Shabbos day, you mean? Yeah, it's just a bracha, Bari Priyagofen, that's fine. Yeah, even Shabbos day, you could make Kiddush many times, because Shabbos day, it's just a bracha, Bari Priyagofen, that's the Kiddush of Shabbos day, right? Shabbos day, Kiddush is only a blessing. It's basically...
The mitzvah, the need for it, can I be good to someone?
Yeah, but if I drink wine here, and then I go home to drink wine, and then I go to your house to drink wine, and then I go to your house to drink wine, every time I make hagafen. So it's fine. So I could make Kiddush for 20 people. You understand what I'm saying? Shabbos day, it's fine. But that's it. No, that's it. That's the Kiddush of Shabbos day. All the introductory remarks, Shabbos day is not Kiddush. It's just psukim that we say before Kiddush. You understand?
Is arcane part of it?
No. Kiddush is only a blessing. Shabbos night, Friday night, there's a serious Kiddush. You mention Hashem's name. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvos v'ratza banu v'Shabbos kodsho, etc. Baruch atah Hashem mekadesh haShabbos. That's a serious bracha of Kiddush. Okay? Shabbos day, you don't have that. Shabbos day, there's just verses of Chumash that we say before Kiddush. But that's not the Kiddush. That you could say anytime. You could say that 1,000 times during the day. That's not a problem. That's not a bracha. The only thing that we do Shabbos day is Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam Bari Priyagofen. As long as you went from house to house to house, you could make that bracha many times, so it's not a problem.
If you might say other people, they have to eat as well, the tima, or if the one that made Kiddush, it's fine.
You also don't have to eat. You can make Kiddush and not eat.
Without having to make Kiddush again.
They?
If you make Kiddush in the first place,
And they hear Kiddush,
yes,
and they didn't eat, then they'll have to make Kiddush when they come home. Of course.
it's not enough if the one that made Kiddush.
No. I can make Kiddush for you, I can't eat for you. So this is in Shulchan Aruch Siman Reish Ayin Gimel, Hilchos Shabbos Siman Reish Ayin Gimel. So just I'm going to read for you the conclusions in Shulchan Aruch Harav, where he says as follows. Kiddush is b'makam suda. That means, if you made Kiddush in one house and you ate in another house, whether you had in mind to eat in the other house, Or you had in mind to eat in this house, but you ended up eating in the other house. You did not fulfill your obligation with Kiddush, and you have to make a new Kiddush in the new house before you start eating, whether it's Friday night or Shabbos day. Because it says, V'karasa la Shabbos oineg. V'karasa la Shabbos oineg, the Chachamim taught, the place of oineg, in the place of the delight. So the Shabbos, that's where it should be V'karasa la Shabbos, where you declare Shabbos, which is Kiddush. You declare that it's Shabbos and Kiddush. That should be where? In the place of the oineg, in the place of the pleasure, in the place where you are eating. Certainly, if you made Kiddush and you didn't have a meal at all, you didn't go anywhere, you just don't want to eat, you didn't fulfill the obligation of Kiddush, right? Also important. You didn't fulfill the obligation. If you didn't eat after Kiddush, you didn't. Just like if you go somewhere else, you didn't fulfill the obligation of Kiddush. If I stay here in Shul, I don't want to leave. I didn't fulfill the obligation of Kiddush. Even in one house, if I'm going from one room to another room, I made Kiddush in one room, and I decide I'm going to eat in another room, and then I decide I go to another room, or I go from the roof down to the first floor to the second floor to the first floor. You have to make a second time Kiddush. You have to make a second time Kiddush.
It's in a different room?
It's a different room in the house. You have to make a second time Kiddush. In other words, let's say you make Kiddush. If you make Kiddush upstairs, let's say here, we daven up there, you make Kiddush, and then you come down here for a meal, you have to make a new Kiddush. Very interesting. Even one house, that's what the Gemara said, we learned from Shmuel, that he would come down from the roof to the first floor to make Kiddush. Now here I want to introduce something very interesting.
Not a different floor. I'm saying you're in the kitchen and the dining room's right next to it.
We'll see in a moment.
And it's visible, it's open?
Okay, we'll see in a moment. We'll see that in a moment. V'karasa la Shabbos oineg. Literally it means you should call out, right? For Shabbos to be oineg. Chachamim said the karasa la Shabbos should be in the place of oineg. In the location where you have the oineg means pleasure. The location where you have Suda Shabbos, that's where you have to have the V'karasa la Shabbos.
Once oineg is not eating, like the Rav mentioned once before, then they like to fast. They love fasting.
Not a Jewish castle.
You're in a sunroom and you go
The normal way is for people to get oineg from eating. That's the normal.
Usually. Now here's an interesting thing. The Rishonim quote that a statement from Talmud Yerushalmi in Maseches Brachos. Talmud Yerushalmi says that Shmuel, who was the one who introduced this concept of Kiddush R'Makom Suda, holds that if during Kiddush you had in mind that you're going to eat elsewhere, it's fine, even though you didn't make Kiddush in that place. That's what the Yerushalmi says. But it's obvious, as they point out, that our Gemara doesn't agree with that. Because if our Gemara would agree with that, then why would Shmuel say you can't fulfill the Kiddush that you made in Shul? Make Kiddush in Shul, have in mind that you're going to eat in the house, and then you're good. You don't have to make another Kiddush. Why would Shmuel argue with Rav? So from our Gemara, we see clearly that Shmuel holds that even if you have in mind, it's not going to work. The mindfulness, having the intention, I'm going to eat elsewhere, is not going to work. So even though the Yerushalmi says it, they say that there's a machloikus between the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. When there is an argument between the two Gemaras, halacha is like Bavli, and therefore they say we have to embrace the view of the Gemara here, that what? That even if you had in mind to go elsewhere and eat when you made Kiddush, it's still insufficient, and you have to make Kiddush again, even though in Yerushalmi, Shmuel holds otherwise. However, many of the Rishonim say that there's no need to create an argument between the two Gemaras. Why? They say that the Yerushalmi is talking about one house, and the Bavli is talking about two separate houses. Meaning, if you go from Shul to house, then Shmuel would agree that your kavanah doesn't matter. And that's why he says you won't be Yotze Kiddush. But in the same house, here, Shmuel would agree that if you had in mind to eat in another room in the house, then you could be Yotze Kiddush, and you don't have to make another Kiddush. So the Yerushalmi would agree with the Bavli, you don't have to make a machlaikas. So when the Shmuel says, whatever you're thinking is enough, if you had in mind to eat somewhere else, the Kiddush can apply to that place. It's only if it's the same house, because since it's the same house, it's already connected. It's already integrated. It's just you're not there, you're in another room. So if you had in mind, that mind could connect you to the other place, because it's really in one house. It's not like you don't have to leave the house and go to a new place. If you have to leave the house and go to a new place, the fact that I have in mind wouldn't be enough, because ultimately I'm leaving this place. But because I'm in one house, so then if your machshava is there, so it's already connected because it's considered one house. It has one gather. It has one bias. That would be a very, very interesting halacha. And as a result of this, halacha l'maisa, this is accepted by many. And that's why, even though we see Kiddush b'makom suda has to be even in one house, but if you were upstairs and you made Kiddush, and you had in mind to eat downstairs, right? According to this, many of the poskim say you would not have to make Kiddush again, because it's one house. Although the Balatanya says it's better lechatchila not to do this, because there's another shita, the shita of the Ran, who holds that this is not true. The Bavli holds that das is irrelevant, even in the same house, and therefore he says it's better not to rely on this. It's better to do Kiddush mamish b'makom suda. But there is a very strong svara based on this Yerushalmi to say halacha l'maisa. And he says you can do it. It's just better not to. That what? If you had in mind to have the meal elsewhere, even though you made Kiddush upstairs, it's good. But from one house to another house, or from the house to the courtyard, your thoughts don't help, and you have to make Kiddush a second time. But there's one exception, and that is, then this is your question, if when I'm eating in a room, I could see the place where I made Kiddush. For example, a kitchen is open to the dining room. So I make Kiddush in the kitchen or in the dining room, I eat in the kitchen. And the place where I'm eating, I could see the place that I made Kiddush, even through a window. There's a window between the two rooms. And even if I can't see the whole room, right? Let's say there's two adjoining rooms, there's an angle, I have a dining room and a living room. You made Kiddush in the living room, you go to eat in the dining room. You can't see from the dining room the whole living room, but you could see part of it. And maybe even through a window, through an opening. So in such a case, yesh oimrim that it's called Kiddush b'makom suda, because both of these places are called one place when it comes to Kiddush. This is the shita of the Tur, the Magid Mishnah, the name of the Gaonim, the Shulchan Aruch, and although again there are those who argue with it, but he says you could rely on it. Certainly, b'shas hatchak you could rely on it.
Do you have to actually see, or could you? Is it just that you could potentially?
You could see. You could potentially see.
You might not be facing the window when you make
Right. If the place where you're going to eat, from there you would be able to see the place where you made Kiddush, even part of that room, and even through a window, yesh oimrim, there is a shita in halacha that it's fine.
So according to Shmuel, according to Bavli on Sukkos,
yeah,
go sukkah hopping. That means that you'd make Kiddush in your sukkah, and then you couldn't just continue your meal elsewhere. You'd have to go and
Right. Another important thing is, if you have a huge room, let's say a wedding hall, you have a sheva brachas, you make Kiddush in one corner, you could continue eating in another corner. That's completely not a problem. Why? Because one room is considered one place, it's called the same makom. So it's a huge buffet, I'm doing Kiddush here, and I eat there, it's still called Kiddush b'makom suda. But it's interesting, the Magen Avram says, l'chatchila, it's not a good thing to do this, because again, some people argue even with this. Even in one room, ad kedei kach. Okay.
When he holds, if you daven in a room, you could be mitzaref to a minion, you could see the room.
Yeah, that's the principle. Yeah, that's the principle.
So you would bench, according to what I asked before, you would bench at your final stop.
Yeah.
You'd have to make Kiddush again because you're in the middle of your stop.
Yeah.
But you bench at the final stop.
Yeah. Finally, we come to the point of what do you have to eat. So the Gaonim taught us that when we say Ein Kiddush Ela B'Makom Suda, it doesn't mean that you have to eat the whole meal, as we just saw. He just says taste. The question is, what do you have to eat? Even if you eat a kazayas, okay, so there's a few different shittas here. Even if you eat a kazayas of bread, you're good. One kazayas of bread, you're good. Even, according to many, if you eat a kazayas of the other 5 minim, meaning not a kazayas of bread, barley, or wheat, but even a kazayas of other grains, for example, boyer minim mezoinus, right? Cake, a kazayas would be good. Others say even a revius of wine. So if you eat a kazayas of bread, you're for sure good. If if you washed. Even if you ate a kazayas of mezainis, you just had cake. Kazayas of mezainis is good. Some say even if you drank a revius, which is just like 4 ounces of wine, besides the cup of Kiddush, they say it's good enough. You did the Yasuda, and you could continue eating somewhere else now or later, and you don't have to make a new Kiddush. Why? Because you already started your Suda in the first place, and the second Suda is just a continuation. It's basically like the Suda Shlishis, the third meal. You don't make Kiddush. You don't make Kiddush before. What happens, however, if you only ate fruits at the Kiddush? You just ate fruits, or you drank soda, or you drank other stuff. Then you're not Yotze Kiddush b'Makom Suda. Why? Because wine is considered satiating. And Bayram in Mezainis is called Mazain. So that's called Su'uda. Wine or Mezainis is called Su'uda. But fruits or other liquids or shahakals is not going to be called Su'uda.
The grape juice is included.
Yeah. So this is a very important idea that you don't mamish have to eat bread. Okay, some say mamish bread, but many say even mezainis, and the Balatanya tain is even wine. Although some argue about wine, but certainly you could rely on bread and on mezainis, and according to many even wine, but not anything else. No, cholent is not suda. Cholent is not suda.
So if one made Kiddush in Shul...
If I make Kiddush and I eat herring, and then I eat some cholent, and then I eat some kishka, and then I take an orange, and then I take an apple, right?
Even though you're full.
Even though this, I have to make another Kiddush. But if I eat a kazayas of bread, or I eat a kazayas of cake, or, according to many, even I drink 4 ounces of wine, then I'm yotze the Suda, the beginning of the Suda, I have to make another Kiddush. There is a shita that he brings that even if you drank the revius of wine from the cup of Kiddush, you're yotze Kiddush b'makom Suda. You don't need Suda only if you didn't drink a revius. But if you drank a full revius of your Kiddush cup, you already did your Kiddush and your Suda. So he says you should rely on this only in a time of need. For example, if there is... he said that you should rely on it, but if you could, drink another revius of wine. Drink another revius of wine, and then you're good. Okay.
What about the Kiddush itself without a revius of wine?
A rov revius. Somebody should taste a rov revius. Yeah.
So if someone's in a place, there's no food, all he has is a bottle of wine, the yotze the whole Suda?
So if there's no food and you just have wine and you drink a revius of wine, and then you don't have to make Kiddush a second time. Yeah.
You yotze the Suda, it's the shop.
Well, you don't have lechem mishnah. I mean, it's not a Suda, but it's...
So it's only a Suda.
It's a Suda in the sense that it's called Kiddush b'makom Suda, yeah. A Suda is that. But it's still not lechem, yeah.
So from a practical point of view, you daven here and you go over to a Kiddush.
Yeah.
And person like me, I cannot eat cake. And there's only mashka there left over. So am I better not to taste anything there at all and go home and make Kiddush?
Why? You could taste.
So it's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You taste something.
You could taste. You can eat a shtickle herring, but you just make a second Kiddush.
But yes.
Nothing wrong with making a second Kiddush.
To eat the kazayas.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. But if you don't eat, you can't think that you will yotze with this Kiddush. You have to make a second Kiddush. If somebody made Kiddush in his house, and his neighbor who lives next door heard Kiddush from him in his house, and he has his table in front of him, that neighbor fulfilled his obligation because he heard Kiddush in the place of his Su'udah. So it's a funny thing. You're saying Kiddush in your house. If you would eat with me, you wouldn't be yotze the Kiddush. But since I'm eating with me, not you, I just heard you Kiddush. As long as you had me in mind, right? As long as, hey, Yankel, just have me in mind, then we're good. Why? Because I heard Kiddush, it's fine. I could be yotze my neighbors with Kiddush.
Doesn't Rabbi say even without having him in mind, you could be yotze?
No, you have to have in mind. You have to have in mind, yeah.
Question, the Shabbos oneg is the Raisa, right?
The Nevi'im, Ishaya.
So it's Midivrei
Kabbalah, it's called Divrei Kabbalah, yeah.
So do we take on that oneg is not the Raisa?
No.
Yeah. So is that the reason why you're not allowed to take, if you have a concern that the wine is tevel, that you should icer it in order to drink it on Shabbos?
Right.
Because that would be a derisa.
Right. Sagt die Gemara weiter. Sagt die Gemara weiter. 3 lines from the bottom. Kuf Aleph Amar Aleph. Rabbi Yochanan has a third opinion if you make Kiddush in Shul. Af Yedei Yayin Nami Yatsu. Rabbi Yochanan says, wow, not only are you Yotze Kiddush in Shul, and you don't have to do a new Kiddush in your house, you don't even have to do a new bracha on wine in your house. Rav said, if you make Kiddush in Shul, you're good, you don't have to make a new Kiddush in your house, but you have to make Hagafen in your house. Yidei Kiddush you Yotze, but not Yidei Yayin. Shmuel said, you're not Yotze, not wine, and not Kiddush. You have to make a new Kiddush, and for sure you have to make a new bracha on wine. Rabbi Yochanan is the most lenient. He says, come home, and you don't have to make a new Kiddush, you don't have to make even a new bracha. You could sit down for your meal, wash Monsey, and you're ready to continue drinking wine in the house from the Hagafen that you made in Shul, and you drank in Shul by the Kiddush. Ad kedei kach. Huh?
It's very logical. If you already fulfilled the mitzvah, then continue.
In other words, Rabbi Yochanan holds that if I had in mind to drink wine in my house, I had in mind when I made Kiddush drink wine in my house, so the drinking in the house is a continuation from the drinking in the Shul, and I don't have to make a new bracha in the house. So he argues with Rav and Shmuel. They hold when you go home, it's considered a new drink, because it's done in a new place. And the fact that you had in mind doesn't connect the two places. It just means you wanted to continue drinking. But L'Poyel, you physically interrupted this drinking and you started a new one. You had in mind, but geographically you're not in the same place. So therefore it's called a hefsek. You left this place, you're going to a new place. So it's considered a new drinking. In reality, even though your mind connected the two, but your mind doesn't replace reality, right? X-rays don't replace the image. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, your mind does define reality. The fact that I was in Shul and I had in mind to drink there, yeah? So it's like the Baal Shem Tov once said, "B'makim shemachshavta shel adam shamu nimtza." Where your thoughts are, that's where you are. Because my thoughts are, I want to continue drinking in the house, so the geographical separation dissolves in the mental connection between the two places, and it's considered a continuation of the same drink, even though I had to walk 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, or next door to get home. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan says, when I drank wine in Shul, it's fine. I just have to say that even according to Rabbi Yochanan, if I heard Hagafen in Shul and I didn't drink, it's not going to work. Why? Because even in your own house, it won't work, right? Let's say I say Boire Pri Hagafen, yeah, and then I start talking to you for 10 minutes, I have to make a new bracha on the wine. So if I heard Hagafen in Shul and I didn't drink, and then I go home, you're going to have to make a new Hagafen simply because of the hefsek between the bracha and the drinking. You understand? But if I drank in Shul, and then I make a hefsek and I go to another house, I don't have to make a new bracha. That's an important emphasis that Tosfos makes.
It was b'makom suda. If he drank, it was b'makom suda. So what's the problem?
Let's say he didn't drink a revius. Let's say he didn't drink a revius. If you'll take a look, 1 second, at Tosfos, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Af Yedei Yayin Yatsu, second to the last Tosfos, Umayri sheshasoi bebeis hakneses, afal gav de linyan Kiddush Yatsu b'shmiya. For Kiddush, you don't have to drink, you just have to hear. K'de pirashti le'el linyan yayin. L'inyan yayin loy potter elim kein shasa. Da have a hefsek. But when it comes to the bracha of wine, you have to drink right after you make the bracha. So if I heard the bracha in Shul, and then I go home and I drink, I have to make a new bracha because of the interruption between the bracha and the drinking. But if I already drank in Shul, and then I go home, Rabbi Yochanan says you don't have to make a new bracha. Where Rav says you have to make, Shmuel says you have to make. Why? Because there was an interruption, it's a new drinking. Rabbi Yochanan says, because I had in mind, it's not the same. Rabbi Yochanan l'tameid, Amar Reb Chanan bar Abaya, Reb Chanan the son of Abaya, said, Amar Reb Das, in the name of Reb Das, Amar Reb Yochanan, name of Reb Yochanan, Echad shinu yayin, ve'echad shinu makom, ein tzarech levarech. Gewaldike Kiddush. If I drink wine, and then I drink again in another place, if I drink wine in one place, and then I drink again a different type of wine that's called shinu yayin, a different flavor, a different caliber, a different barrel, a different type of wine, I don't have to make a new Boire Pri Hagafen on the second drink. whether the second drink was from a different wine, which is different than the first wine, or shinui makom, it was in a different place. Rabbi Yochanan holds a change of wine and a change of place doesn't cancel out the first bracha. You don't say it's a different type of wine and therefore I have to make a new bracha. No. And you don't say I went to a different place and therefore I have to make a new bracha. Whether it's shinui yayin or shinui makom, you don't have to make a new bracha. It's always considered the continuation of the first drink. Of course, as the Rashbam points out, famously, when Rabbi Yochanan says shinui yayin, you have to make a new bracha, he's talking about Vayikra priya gofen. But there's another bracha called hatoiva hametiv, which one does make when you bring out a second bottle of wine, a different type of wine, which is superior. That's another bracha hatoiva hametiv that he's not talking about. When he says shinui yayin ein tzarich levarich, he's talking about a new Vayikra priya gofen. The fact that the wine changed is irrelevant. Why? Because your mind, you didn't take your mind away from the first drink, even though you left the house or you changed the type of wine, you're good.
Is that Hatov Laritin on a better wine? Is that objective or is it personal? When the guy drinks a $5 bottle of wine on Shabbos, he gets a $10 bottle of wine, he makes it Hatov, is it what objectively is a better wine?
Yeah, according to most poskim, as long as it's not inferior.
The assumption is it's better.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if my benchmark is a cheap wine, say I like cheap red wine.
Oh.
And I get a not cheap red wine, but it's just a little bit better. Do I make a bracha over that or not?
Is it inferior to the first wine?
The second one is better, but they're both inferior.
That's fine. You make.
This would say it has to be like a really good bottle of wine. That's some.
It's fine. You can follow your bar.
Just as long as you're not debarred.
Yes, as long as you're not debarred. Yeah. Very good. So when Rabbi Yochanan says that you don't have to make a new bracha, he's not only talking about wine, he's talking about every food. Rabbi Yochanan holds if I start eating in one place and I continue to eat in another place, I don't have to make a second bracha as long as I did not take my mind off the eating, which as we will see, this is exclusively the view of Rabbi Yochanan, and it's not the halacha, but this was the view of Rabbi Yochanan, Gavaldik Kiddush, you don't have to make a new bracha, even though you changed places, you left the house, you came to a new house, as long as you did not interrupt it mentally. You had in mind to continue. Yes?
When it comes to this mental interruption, is there also a time factor? It's more than 72 minutes or something like that cancels it out.
No, it doesn't seem to be an issue. Says the Gemara Mitzvah. They asked a contradiction on Rabbi Yochanan from a Braisa. The Braisa tells us clearly the Tanoim taught Shinui Makom Tzarich Levarich. If you change your location in the middle of the drinking, you have to make a new bracha, even if you had in mind to continue drinking. Shinui yayin, if you change your wine, ain't tzarich levarich. Tiyufta, the Rabbi Yochanan, this is a refutation of Rabbi Yochanan, who believes you don't have to make a new bracha with shinui makom, and the Gemara says, indeed, tiyufta, this is a refutation. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan's position has been refuted. It's true that if there's a new wine, you don't have to make a Vayikra priya gofen, but if it's a new place, if I left the house and I go to a new place, even though I had in mind when I made Kiddush and Shul that I want to continue drinking in the house, I have to make a new Vayikra priya gofen, unlike Rabbi Yochanan. The question is, Rav says, Kiddush worked and Shmuel says Kiddush also didn't work. But that's another argument. But in terms of Shinui Makom, in terms of the bracha gofen, you have to make a new bracha. So the Gemara says, Yasiv Rav Idi bar Oven kamei Reb Chizda. Rav Idi, the son of Oven, was sitting in front of Reb Chizda. V'yasiv Reb Chizda, and Reb Chizda was sitting, v'ka'ama meshmei Reb Huna, and he was quoting Reb Huna. So Rav Idi was sitting in front of Reb Chizda, and Reb Chizda was quoting Reb Huna. And Reb Huna said, Hada amrit, shinui makom tzarich levarech. Whenever we say that if you change your place, you have to make a bracha, lo yishanu ela mibayis labayis. This is only true from home to home. Aval mimakam lamakam, but from one place to another place in the same home, loy. It's not called a shinui makam, and you don't have to make a new bracha. That means, if I start drinking wine in my house, and then I go up to the second floor, and I continue the drinking festivities, according to Reb Chizda, the name of Reb Huna, I wouldn't have to make a second bracha Vayikra priya gofen. Reb Yochanan holds even if I go from house to house. But Reb Huna said, house to house you have to, but place to place in the same house, you don't have to make a new bracha. Amar le Rav Idi bar Oven. So Rav Idi bar Oven, who heard this, tells Reb Chizda, Hachi tanina la b'masnisa devei Rav Hinak. In fact, we learned this already in a Braisa, that was taught in the yeshiva. The Bey is the yeshiva of Rav Hinnik, of a man named Rav Hinnik. Va'amrile, and some say b'masnisa, the Bey bar Hinnik. It was in the Braisa of the yeshiva of the son of Hinnik. Either it was the yeshiva of Rav Hinnik or the yeshiva of the son of Hinnik. Kavaseich, and it supports you. That Braisa clearly says that in one house, it's not called a shinui makom. So Reb Idi supported Reb Chizda's words. Asks the Gemara, Rav Huna masnisa kamashmalan? So is Reb Huna just telling us what it says in a Braisa? If a Braisa supports him, why did Reb Huna have to say this? The Gemara says Reb Huna masnisa leishmiale. Reb Huna did not hear about this Braisa because Reb Huna was an Amoira. The fact was that the Amoirayim, fluently, they knew all the Mishnayos. You couldn't be an Amoira if you did not know every Mishnah by heart, word for word. Every Amoira had to know all the Mishnayos because that was the structure, the text that they worked with. But the Braisas, they didn't always know. So it's possible that Reb Huna did not hear about this Braisa. This Braisa he never heard about. And that's why Reb Huna felt that it's an important halacha to say, because he didn't know that there's a Braisa of the yeshiva of Rav Hinnik, or the son of Rav Hinnik, Bar Hinnik, that taught us. So this is a new Kiddush, that Shinui Makom will only apply from house to house, and not from place to place. Which would mean that what we learned before by Kiddush b'Makom Seuda, and what we're learning now is two different creatures. Because by Kiddush b'Makom Seuda we learned Shmuel that even from place to place in the house, from upstairs to downstairs, you have to make Kiddush again, right? That's why Shmuel came down to make Kiddush, because it's not called Makom Seuda. But here we're learning that what? That if I start drinking downstairs and I continue drinking upstairs, not als Kiddush, but als bracha, I don't have to make a new bracha. That means that Kiddush b'Makom Seuda would be much more stringent than this halacha of changing your place in middle of drinking, where here we say that if you change your place, if it's the same house, you don't have to make a new bracha. Why this is so important is because we have this text in the Gemara. But many of the Rishonim, when we look in their commentary here, they had a different version of the Gemara. They saw in Reb Huna, he doesn't say avol mi makam lamakam. He says avol mi pina lepina, from corner to corner. That's what he said. That's a completely different girsa. That means in one room, if I'm sitting in a big dining room and I'm sitting here and drinking wine, and then I go there and I continue drinking, I don't have to make a new bracha. But if I'm sitting here and I go upstairs, I would have to make a new bracha. So these two versions in the Gemara are really very, very different. Because let's say I start drinking here and then I go up there, do I have to make a new bracha? According to Reb Huna, no, it's the same house. But according to the second version, no, only in one room don't you have to make a bracha. Which would mean that then Kiddush b'Makom Seuda and Shinui Makom are actually identical. They reflect each other. Because what did we say by Kiddush b'Makom Seuda? That two rooms in one house are considered two separate places. And if you made Kiddush in one, you can't eat in another one. Again, unless you could see it, there's a window where b'shas hadchak you could rely on it, or it was one big room with two corners, etc. Even though over there there's also an argument. But according to the second girsa of the Rishonim, it means that Kiddush b'Makom Seuda and Shinui Makom have the same halacha. In both cases, from house to house, you have to do a new Kiddush and you have to do a new bracha. Even in one house, from room to room, you have to do a new Kiddush and you have to do a new bracha. The only way you're exempt is if it's in one room from corner to corner. But let's remember, we brought the Yerushalmi who says that Shmuel holds that Kiddush b'Makom Seuda in one house you can do even from room to room if you had in mind, right? If you had in mind, one house would help. And therefore, according to the opinions who hold that if you made Kiddush in one room in the house and you had in mind to eat in another room, that's going to be good because it makes the whole house like one place. Your mind could connect the house, but your mind cannot connect two houses. So by Shinui Makom, that would be the same halacha. The halacha would be that if during the bracha I have in mind to continue eating in another room in the same house, I will not have to make a new bracha. But if I have in mind to eat in another house, I would have to make a new bracha. So that means I make a bracha on coffee. This happens here constantly. People go to that room, they start their coffee, they make shahakal. They come into this room. Do they have to make a new bracha or not? What do most people do? They don't make, but really? Really, you have to make a new bracha, right? I can't see the room of the coffee here. Certainly if it's upstairs, a heroes I can't see, right? There's no window, unless you want to, Nucha maybe wants to make a window. No, if I bring the coffee here and I make shahakal, beautiful. But if I make shahakal here and then I go upstairs
With that coffee, or we make another coffee?
with this coffee, with another coffee, doesn't matter. Or I made a coffee in that room and I make shahakal, I schmooze in the morning. They have the cigarette hour at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And I make shahakal and then I come into the shir and I sit and I continue drinking, right? People don't make another shahakal. What would really the halacha be?
But you can see one.
Have in mind. Okay, so go.
If you stand in a certain spot over there.
You can't, this room you can't see from anywhere.
No. We have a coffee space.
So according to the first Girsing Gemara, Reb Huna said, right, memakam lamakam is fine if it's the same house. But we just learned the Girs of the Rishonim that what? Only one corner to another corner. But memakam lamakam would not be good. You have to make a new bracha. However, we learned, okay, the car is moving, but you're in one place. I mean, you're on a boat, right? The boat may be moving, but you're in one place. You're on an airplane. You're not going to make a bracha 6.6 million times.
You make the coffee here and you go inside the car now with the same cup.
Same thing. People make a coffee here, they make shahakal, they go into the car, okay? And the car drives away. That's already mebayis labayis. That's not memakam lamakam, right? Here and upstairs is one bias, yeah? Here to the tent, yeah, it's not, it's owned by one guy, but a courtyard is, yeah, it's not good. That's not called memakam lamakam, yeah.
So the car, are we making up for sure making up? If it's labayis, you go to the car, you make
Of course. What's the shaila?
Yeah, you should bench first.
Unless you don't drink it here, you just wait till you get into the car again, and then you make a bracha. People buy potato chips, they make hadam, and then they start walking around everywhere eating the potato chips, right? They have to make a new bracha. You went out of the room, you went out of the building, you can't continue eating the potato chips to make a new bracha.
You have to bench, even if you didn't.
On potato chips, you don't have to. That's going to be the next sugya, when you have to bench after. Potato chips, you don't have to. So this is something, so the truth is that lahalach, according to most poskim, just like Kiddush b'makam suda, if you make Kiddush in one room, and you can't see the other room, and you go out to the other room, you have to make a new Kiddush. Unless you had in mind, right? Unless you had in mind during Kiddush that you're going to eat in the other room. So by shinei makam would be the same halacha. No, the car won't help. That's mebayis labayis. That's mebayis lechatze. But if I took my coffee in that room, in the foyer, what is that called? The foyer?
Yes.
Foyer, okay. Mudroom, foyer. I wanted to say foyer, you say mudroom, so I mudroom. And you make a bracha shahakal. And when you're making, you have in mind, I'm going to a shir, right? And I'm going to be there. So then, you don't have to make a new bracha. Because, just like by Kiddush, if you had made Kiddush upstairs and you had in mind to eat the meal downstairs, according to many, you're good. But if you didn't have in mind,
This coffee I could have made 3 brachas. One at home when I made it, and then in the car on the way here, and then once I'm here again.
probably 20 brachas.
You're a mitzvah boy.
When you came out of the car and you continued drinking, when you came into the building and you continued drinking in that room, and when you came into this room and you continued drinking.
I buy potato chips in the store and I make shahakal there.
It's a problem.
I walk out of the store.
You buy potato chips in the store, you make hadama, you start eating it,
and you walk out of the
and then people walk out of the store, they go into the car, they continue eating it.
Even as soon as you walk out, you have to ready.
Exactly. Exactly. You went into the chutzner.
Can you make?
Okay. Halacha lemaisa, how this all applies practically, is going to be the next sugya. We're going to continue it tomorrow. Be'ezer Hashem.
Can you make a blanket promise to yourself? So whenever I make a bracha, I use the blanket whatever I want.
Your das can help mecheder lecheder in one bias, but your das can't help for another house. Just like Kiddush b'makam suda.
Example, you don't have to think about it every time. You tell yourself, anytime I...
Yeah. The Mishnah Brura has a whole long shtickle here. He says people walk around, and they eat everywhere, and l'chayda. So you're saying you have one das that whenever I eat, it's never for that place. My whole life, it's for anywhere else. I make a coffee, don't think it's for here. In other words, you tell your mom, whenever I make a bracha, it's not for here. It's for everywhere I go.
What if a guy's running? So he makes a bracha while he's running. He drinks water.
You mean in the middle of the marathon, you decide to drink?
Yeah, he still is. Yeah, you're constantly drinking when you're running. I mean, I don't run, but I'm assuming because I run.
It's a good question. In other words, you're outdoors. If you're in a house, we said it helps. But if you're outdoors, so does the whole world outdoors become a house, right? That's a good question. You're running in a field or a park or whatever on a track, and you have a bottle of water, and you hold it. Yeah, people, they're biking, they do it constantly, and you take out the bottle. So is that called a house? And you have bedas. When you're drinking this water the first time, you know that in 5 minutes you're going to do it again, and a half an hour again. I mean, that's your das. You have a whole bottle. You're not drinking it all now. So you want to know if the outdoors becomes combined like a house, right? That's a good question. So we'll explore that also tomorrow. Bli neder.
Okay, no rush. I don't rush. It's fine. I don't need
So what goes into running?
Maybe you should start.
my knees are
Oh.
By Kiddush, it's like you're supposed to Shabbos because my knees are bad. You don't remember Kiddush, you need to have.
No, by Kiddush, the vart is that the Kiddush and the Suda have to be in one place. Now we're talking about a separate thing, not Kiddush and the Suda. A regular day, I have a meal, and I make a bracha on a piece of mezainis here. And then I take it, and I go up there, and I continue. Let's make a new bracha.
The place, the bracha has with the food that you're eating.
It does, but I already made a bracha on the food. Here, I'm drinking this coffee. I'm not making a new shahakal. I already made 20 minutes ago a shahakal. I take this cup, and I go upstairs.
You already made a bracha, but what's that with the plats? Only by Kiddush, this Kerusel Shabbos oiling. You have the
Excellent. You want to know, by Kiddush, it has to be in the place of the Suda. Who cares about the place? It's the same. Very good question. The answer is that Shinui Makam makes a hefsek in the eating. It's called just like a new coffee. If I have a new coffee, somebody brings me now a new coffee, I have to make a shahakal. Why? So it's another cup. What's the difference?
It's a total new food.
You brought me a new coffee. I made a bracha on this coffee, so went to that. The answer is, the bracha and the food have to connect. The bracha was on this coffee. Now you bring me a new cup of coffee, that didn't get a bracha. So I have to make a new shahakal. Only if I had in mind. If I thought I'm going to have a new coffee, or the coffee is in front of me, then I don't have to make a new bracha. But if you now bring me a new cup of coffee, I wasn't planning. You understand?
Cup of coffee, a different place.
I'm giving an example. Says the halacha, when I change a place, it's an interruption of the first siyah. The first drinking got interrupted.
On this cup, I made the bracha.
Right.
I can wait 2 hours to do
That is by Kiddush, not by the bracha.
Kiddush is a different thing.
Kiddush is a Kerusel Shabbos oiling.
What's the meaning of a bracha b'chnal? You mention whatever your blessing, date, whatever you eat.
Yeah, so this is considered, just like if you bring a new food, this food didn't get a bracha. Even though this is not a new food, it was here for me. But it's a new act it's a new su'ud, it's a new act of eating, it's a new act of drinking, because I changed places. It's not a hemshech.
That's what I was asking.
Eating is not just eating. It's where you eat, what you eat. If you go away, it's a new.
Yeah, we live in the McDonald's generation, so places don't matter. You eat in the car, you eat in the kitchen, you eat here, you eat there, my life, my gate. We don't connect, in our minds, we don't connect food with place. But really, food is connected with place. You sit, you eat, it's an act, it's an activity. It needs consciousness, huh?
Used to be much more like that.
Das. So when I go to a new place, it's not something I change places. Halacha sees this is it's a new incident, it's a new drink. Not it's a new drink begashmius. It's not a new drink begashmius. I was holding the cup. But it's a new maisesh siyah that's disconnected from the previous maisesh siyah. Like a whole new mitzias.
The bracha is not only on the food, it's the
Bracha are the Metzias ook.
It's on the eating and the drinking. This is like a new drinking. It's a new drinking experience. Just like if I drink and then I come to your house and I start drinking. Yeah. So over there it's taka new water. Yeah. So we say it's a whole new thing. But I made a bracha on water. You made a bracha on that water. Even if it's the same water, you made a bracha on the water in that place. But now the water is in a new place. It's a new bracha.
Someone comes to your house, you say macha bracha because macha bracha the whole.
You're in the house.
It's the place.
Yeah.
Well, the Chman is you go to house, they all give you
eat in each
wine,
place.
what? So you keep making one bracha after another, for sure.
Well, we'll see tomorrow. Depends what you eat also. There's a difference in a coffee and cake.
They all offer you cake. wine every single house.
So cake and wine, okay, we'll see. Over there, we're talking...
You can see the kishkish would be like cake.
You mean mezainis? If it's mezainis, yeah. I said kishke. No, you're right. If it's mezainis, you're right. I guess I was talking about shahakal kishke.
You're talking about fake. The real kishka is chocolate. Inside of the kishka.
Well, the kishka of kishka is shahakal. The kishka of flour is mezainis. You're right. If the kishka is mezainis, then it's mokum soda. You're right. Huh? Barley cholent, he's right. Barley cholent. Mezainis. If you eat a kazayas of mezainis, then you're good.
Is that the thing in the cholent?
There's barley in the cholent.
It's a barley cholent?
I'm saying if it's a mezainis, like kishka mezainis, you're right. I stand correct. I meant shahakal food.
I was thinking about a shahakal cholent, not a mazonis.
Yeah, shahakal cholent is not enough.
If it's got mazonis, if that's good for what the cholent is,
Yeah.
then it would be like any other mazonis.
Yeah. In other words, so the shinui makam, so to speak, creates a shinui chefza. You're saying, but it's the same cup of coffee. No. This cup of coffee was here. That's like a new cup of coffee. It's a new experience. You say, yeah, but it's the same physical food. The bracha is not just on the same physical coffee. Because I changed place, it's like a new act of eating. The fact that I changed and the place changed, the whole experience changes. It's like I sit down for a new coffee drink, a new meal. I sat down for a new meal. It's the same food that they brought from downstairs. They just brought it upstairs. It's considered a new meal, so it needs a new bracha. In other words, the bracha of an hour ago can't apply to this food right now, even though I made a bracha on that food, because since I changed locations, it's considered a new ma'isa achila. It's like I'm starting new.
So I can go with the show.
Even it's Monsey.
Let me give an example, okay? An example. Let's say I'm eating, I'm drinking coffee, yeah, on the table. It's late at night. I go to sleep. I wake up in the morning. I come back. You think I have to make a new bracha? Why?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hefsek.
But I would say no.
Time too.
Same place?
Same place. I'm in my kitchen. It's midnight. I'm tired. I go to sleep. I wake up 7 in the morning. I come back to the table. Whatever.
Here makes the new act.
Yeah, it's a total new.
I made a bracha on this coffee yesterday.
5 hours ago.
So what? So you're saying the bracha was 5 hours ago. It expired. Huh? There's a shelf life. Huh? So in other words, the bracha expired. This coffee had a bracha. Yeah, it's 5 hours ago. Okay. When I change places, that's just like there's a hefsek in time.
Still in the middle of this either.
I'm not in the middle of the Suda. That's the point.
You change places. It's called not.
Oh, so if your das is in the same house, it connects the two.
So the guy falls asleep by the soup and wakes up with the chicken, has to make a new broth.
Because over there it's different. Over there he went to sleep. But I'm just saying, just like in time you understand that the bracha on this doesn't apply in the morning because of the hefsek in time, there's also something called a hefsek in space. When I take the food from this space to another space, so the bracha there doesn't apply to the bracha here. Because it's a whole new experience. You made a bracha on this coffee. Yeah. But there was hefsek. What was the hefsek? Because I went to sleep. Or I went away. Yeah. So here, I took the food with me. But it's now a hefsek. It doesn't continue.
In your example, don't you also have a time, you have a place,
Yeah.
you have das?
Yeah.
Hefsek in all three when you go to sleep. And
Yeah, when you go to sleep, it's a hefsek in zman, mokum, das, everything.
Can't you also say that because everything...
I'm just giving an example that even, he's asking, it's the same coffee in the upstairs and downstairs. I'm saying when you go to sleep, it's also the same coffee. But the bracha on the coffee last night doesn't work for drinking the coffee today. So the bracha on the coffee in this house doesn't work for the same coffee in another house, or even even if there was das, or even in this house if there was no das. Why? Because the hefsek makam, yeah, it uproots it from the first bracha. Just like a new coffee, I need a new bracha. Just like if I come back tomorrow on the same coffee, I need a new bracha, because the bracha from yesterday doesn't apply to the coffee today. It's, so to speak, expired. Why? Because there was a tremendous interruption. Here also, the fact that I changed locations, not in the same room, I went to a completely different room that I don't see, so it's considered, so to speak, like a new coffee. It's not a new coffee, but it's considered like a new coffee. Why? Because the place has an impact.
do you bench in Shul to finish? Let's say you show a Shul, you go to Shul to finish, and you bench there. It's a new Suda.
So when it comes to bread, if when you washed for the bread and you made hamatzah, you had in mind to continue eating somewhere else, then it's fine, and you could bench there.
House.
You have to.
Right, you eat there also, but it's a new house. It's not. It's still considered the same Suda.
Oh, so we're going to learn tomorrow there's a difference between different brachas. In other words, coffee is not cake. Coffee is not bread. Because there's things that when you bench, you have to bench in this place. And there's things that you don't have to make a bracha chrein in that place. So over there, the halacha also changes. In other words, if you leave it and if it's pulling you back. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow.
Said it's a McDonald's generation. My wife's grandfather is 101. She lived longer, but it's the first time I ever ate in a restaurant.
Really?
Yeah.
101 years old. Can I not? No, they don't know about it. I know. I'm thinking my grandparents, they ever heard of a restaurant? Who knew about a restaurant? You ate in your house. There was no such a thing. Huh?
Life is so different now.
Yeah, you stop in a shop, you pick up a cake, a this, a that. That's how we live. We all live that way. Today we even have meals on trucks. Yeah, there's a toiva native truck. You eat on trucks. No, the concept of makom and food is today a different generation, different matzav. Huh? People don't associate food with, it's on the go. Meals on the go, like in war, the soldiers in war. What are they called? The meals,
Soldiers' rations. What do they call it?
Soldiers' rations. Rations, you're talking about?
the rations of soldiers, but there's a name for the food.
No, it's called RMEs. Ready made to eat or something. RME, I think it's called.
Ready meals.
Ready, it's something like that.
The ready meals for the troops. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it's schwer zu verstehen. Man darf es dann.
Okay. Tzlocha. Have a wonderful day.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.